Thank you for listening to the Living Zen-podcast. If you've been listening for a while and are wondering how you can take the next step in developing your own Zen practice, or how you can more formally connect with our community, please explore our online Orientation to Zen practice, which you can find on our website at zenwest.ca. If you enjoy the resources that we make available online, we would very much appreciate your support. There are a number of ways that you can help us continue to do the work we do. One of the best ways is by becoming a part of our community as an associate. Your commitment of $10 a month will ensure that offerings like the Living Zen-podcast, eZendo, and our online Orientation to Zen will continue to be available around the world to everyone with an interest in truly living Zen. To become an associate, please visit our website at zenwest.ca and click on Become an Associate. Many more Zen Talks are available for purchase on iTunes and at Amazon.com. Just search for Venerable Eshu Martin. These talks are also made available for free on our website for all of our members and associates. You may also want to download the Living Zen Podcast app, which makes downloading and listening to the podcast effortless. Thank you for your support, and thank you for listening to Living Zen.
I grew up in a Christian faith, so I grew up hearing a lot of the mythology of what happens when someone dies from a Christian perspective, and pearly gates and all that.
Me too.
Yeah. Is there, I don't know anything about what, from the perspective of Buddhism, what it says that we go through when we die or what we experience. Is there anything?
That's my exact question.
There's a lot of different ways to go with this question. The question, to sort of hardball it for you here, the question is, what good is it? I mean, to the sort of you've been practicing for a while. So the question is, what is the value of an answer to that question? How does it transform the way that you live your life today? That's the sort of crux of it. The bottom line is that, there's all kinds of stuff from different traditions of Buddhism. Traditions of Buddhism that arose out of a Brahmanic culture smell a lot like Brahmanism, and ones that arose from sort of like a Taoist Confucian sort of culture smell a lot like that, and the ones that arose from the Shinto smell a lot like that. So the honest thing is, I don't know. There's a lot of stories about what happens, but in the end, we don't know. And the question comes back to, the sort of basic Buddhist philosophy about it is that everything that we experience and everything that we are is a transient coalescence of an infinite number of variables which are finite, right? So what happens to a car when you take the doors and windows and tires and engine and you take them all apart? Where does the car go? And what happens to the wagon when you take off its wheels and box? There's a Taoist. There's a koan. Kaichu, the wheel or the cart maker, is the koan. It's really like what happens? So, in Buddhism, there's this teaching of anatman, no self. And this is the fundamental thing, where everything that we experience is made up entirely of non-self things. So to say sort of what happens to us, what happens to me after sort of like the body breaks down and the mind starts to work, ceases functioning, it's in Zen we would say, well, it starts with the problem that you think there's a you to go someplace or do something, you know. This is the like what I was talking about tonight. This is the great challenge I think that we face as human beings, is that we're always looking for the comfort. It's like, oh God, my father died. And that's a very difficult thing. And if I could just know or believe that somehow there's something that continues to exist, then I wouldn't have to confront that he's gone. And further, I won't have to confront that I'll be gone, and that everything that I know and see and touch and experience will be gone. Every mountain and every tree and every meal, and it's all gone. And that's the transformative point, I think, of practice. We spend a lot of time trying to avoid that cold, hard truth. We spend a lot of energy doing things to steer us away from that single point. And so our behavior and the choices that we make in life, the people that we choose to be with, the jobs that we choose to do, when we get right down to it, are fundamentally concerned with how we approach, how we confront that single point. And so in Zen practice, this is why I spend so much time talking about, this great matter of birth and death and plus and minus and all this stuff, because when we're sitting and we're engaging in this activity of breathing, we're investigating this activity of birth and death. The inhalation activity of birth and the exhalation activity of death. There's nowhere to go. We're looking at death in everything that we come across. And for the new people might be like, you guys are really grim. But that's only half the equation, right? And it's by really embracing and embodying this complete like the presence of death in everything, that we can really appreciate things. Like when I'm with a person, if I really deeply understand that person is finite and transient, that I don't know how long I'm going to be around, that the flower that I got is dying, like it will never look the same again. This room will never be the same again. The car I'm driving will never be the same again. The forest that I'm camping in is gone, and that was something that was very powerfully present for me this weekend. The beauty and value of that experience is immeasurable. It's transformative. So the question of sort of like what happens after we die is this transformation, and it's a transformation that we can experience in every moment of our lives. Some of them are bigger, and some of them are smaller. Some of them transform everything. Sikito was talking about how, we have a plan, for the next year. But it doesn't mean anything. The universe doesn't care about your plan. We don't know where we'll be. And if you can sort of grasp that, in the Zendo we have Bodhidharma, in this famous sort of proclamation, don't know. This is like one of the fundamental points in Zen, is that we don't know. We like to think we know. We like to plan and prepare, and they're good things to do. But fundamentally, we have to accept that we don't know anything. So I don't know if that's helpful at all. but the Buddha really spent a lot of time using death as a teacher. And he said, of all of the footprints, that of the elephant is king, and of all of the meditations, that on death is king. This sort of crucial experience, or I don't want to use the word reality, but this crucial sort of element of life that we spend so much time avoiding, if we can actually embrace it, it doesn't kill us. It actually enlivens life, by contrast. So it's not always sort of like right away or anything like that. And certainly, my experience with my mother's death was not one of like, whoa, my mother died and isn't life wonderful? Like, no. It was a long and painful sort of road, but that's the path that it put me on, was to really sort of, I didn't understand what had happened. And so I began on a path of questioning, what the hell was that all about? And that's what led to life, as I know it now. That's what transformed my experience then of one of absolute suffering to one now that's totally different. That's what Suddhodana tried to avoid for Siddhartha with all his might. And it's what we try to avoid in our culture with all our might. And I don't understand why anymore. Because I think that embracing the fullness of the experience of life is what really gives us life. So. Okay.
I'm sort of giving up on whether it's a good question or not.
There's no bad questions.
When you start doing Zen practice, and maybe you'll go to a monk, or maybe you'll stay just a guy that likes it, or maybe you'll just do Jikai or whatever. What is different than before you did it?
Well, no, it's a great question. What is different? Well, it's a lot. Trying to think of a way to sort of, some people try to ride a bike, and some people stop after they fall the first time, and some people try for a week and they don't get it, and then some people keep on trying until they get it. And what's different after you successfully ride on the bike? There's lots of different experiences that people have, whether it's marriage or having children, the difference. What's the difference between living together and getting married?
Well, there's a few. There's a few. I'm thinking.
Well, it's a big part of it is commitment. And I mean, honestly, if I'm honest about sort of becoming a monk, it's not so much, for me it wasn't so much about like being a monk is such a great thing to do. It was a matter of really being honest about the impact of practice in my life, and creating a strategy in which I was likely to do the most practice. So, if I'm just a sort of guy who likes it, I have other priorities that are just like, I've got this family thing, this work thing, and I don't need to sit today because this other thing is going on. And for me, being a monk was, so I'll start having sits in my house, and I'll schedule them on this, and this day, and at such and such a time, people will start showing up at the house. And there's lots of times where I wake up in the morning and go, I don't want to sit. But that won't be good if a whole bunch of people come over and I'm not in the zendo. So I go down and the first minute on the cushion, I'm like, stupid people making me sit. And then after just a couple of minutes, I'm so grateful that I had to get up and straighten out the house and set up the zendo and sit. So for me, a big part of becoming a monk is kind of recognizing the value of practice and then making a commitment or setting a life up in which there's no way around it. Exactly. Yeah. So thanks for listening to the Living Zen podcast. If you follow Living Zen through iTunes, I would very much appreciate it if you would take a moment to let me know what you think about it by rating or reviewing the podcast, so that new listeners can also hear what you have to say. Thank you for your time and for your support.